to a Prop 8 is done writ large every day here. People find out that a person's on the other team, and the whisper campaigns and the emails going back and forth saying, well, that person's now dead to me. Well, when a person says they're dead to them, in terms of their friendships, the town is a social town, and these people choose to work with people that they feel comfortable with, and they're not going to want to work with a neocon. If a person feels comfortable saying on a set that George Bush is Hitler, a person who voted for him is therefore a Nazi. Why would a leftist in this town hire a Nazi to be on a set with a majority people who feel similarly that George Bush is a bad human being? So I don't call it a specific blacklist because I don't think it's written on a piece of paper. I don't think that there's red channels out there. There doesn't need to be. The system is so entrenched and so tilted to the left, and they've so intimidated people on the right into silence. There's no need for a blacklist.
Most conservative intellectuals view popular culture as below them.
Yeah, that's a huge problem. That's where I come in. I'm not an intellectual.
How true is my perception, and have you encountered that? I mean, I think of conservative intellectuals as wearing bow ties like George Will, and I don't see them comparing Susan Sarandon's best nude scenes.
Have you noticed that I talk about Susan Sarandon's nude scenes?
I'm not sure. That those words just came to me from out of the...
Oh, no, because that's a motif in my writing. I grew up in the 1980s, and I had pay cable, so I've seen Susan Sarandon naked probably as many times as Tim Robbins has.
And what a wonderful experience it is to see that.
It still is. It still is, and I'm able to separate the art from the ideology. I still would say that her scene at the beginning of Atlantic City, where she's dripping lemon juice down her breast, is one of the great exultant moments of my teen years.
Yes,
a revelation. And let me tell you an experience I've had with Susan Sarandon. I had a friend come out to Los Angeles to appear on the Bill Maher show, the latest iteration of the Bill Maher show, Real Time with Bill Maher. It was about 2 years ago, and he told me that Tim Robbins was going to be on the panel with him. And this is a guy who's appeared on Meet the Press. He writes for a conservative publication, but is featured on CNN all the time and is really considered a straight reporter. But he happened to write a book that I guess because it was saying that Saddam Hussein had a relationship with Al-Qaeda, which is true. The book was based upon documents that were discovered after the end of the Iraq War. But he was going to be pegged by Bill Maher and by the majority on the panel, which was Tim Robbins and Paula Poundstone. So right there's three hard lefties and then this writer. And I told him, you don't understand. It's not like going into the green room in Washington, D.C. at NBC and running into Madeleine Albright or even running into Barney Frank or Senator Dodd, people with whom you would have political disagreements. These people out here in Hollywood are vicious. They're not nice. They will not treat you with dignity. They do not give you the benefit of the doubt. And he said that's crazy. We went into the green room, and there is a very, very, very tiny room, and the entire time we were in there, they knew that this person was going to be on the panel with him. Tim Robbins and Susan Sarandon spent the entire time positioning their backs as a wall in order not to have to engage in conversation with this writer. And he kept looking at me like, and whispering to me, "Oh my God, you were right." I said, "Oh, this is what it's like out here. It's not like it is in Washington, D.C., where you're in the less cool group, where you're kind of the nerd on campus, which is what conservatives are. I said, you are a pariah here. And he couldn't believe it until he witnessed it. And I hold her in such deep contempt. She even went against her own mother, who is an avowed conservative, when her mother spoke up. I mean, this is a totalitarian. Her mindset is totalitarian. And Susan Sarandon, she of the phenomenal lesbian love scene in the movie The Hunger with Catherine Deneuve, is such a vicious human being. The juxtaposition between her beauty and her heyday and her skill set as an actress and the tyrant that she is in her private life is just one of the great juxtapositions of our time.
What were the biggest surprises in the journey from inspiration to execution of this website and now its launch?
Well, the thing is, we're only 2 days in, and I have no absolute confidence in its success. It's a lark, but it's, to me, a lark that is born of an absolute belief that the site is speaking for a lot of people, not just the hundreds that I know in LA who are involved in the industry, who would love to have a voice and who would love to have their ideological emancipation. I believe that it is speaking to a lot of people out there in America, and I'm completely passionate about it. And so I don't take venture capital money, and so the hard part is trying to do it with limited resources. And so I'm not as technically competent as one would think I am, given that I've been involved in the Internet for so many years, that I rely on other people to be able to do this stuff for me, to make my ideas come true. And so it's taken a lot longer than I would have liked to have happened, but I think that because of that, it didn't launch before the election. And I think that that's a good thing, because I think that now we're starting free of the George Bush era, which has been marked by Bush-Hitler rhetoric as being normal in Hollywood. And we get to start with their guy in power, and they're going to need people with R's next to their names to support them through this period of time. And it will give this group of people a little bit more cover to be comfortable expressing their viewpoints. So it's taken a lot longer, but it's actually benefited the site, because the narrative is to start afresh at the beginning of 2009, right before Barack Obama is about to come into office. And from what I can tell so far, there is an absolute respect for the President of the United States, even though he's not a person that shares their political belief system. And I think that this is a stark contrast between the rhetoric of the other side on their websites, especially the celebrity left websites, which has been completely disgraceful against a sitting president.
Any surprises in all the interviews you've done in the last 3 days?
No, I'm not surprised by everybody in talk radio land, which is where most of my interviews have come from. I already know I'm a talk radio addict. I grew up enjoying film and television to the point where I watched every TV show. I knew the television grid. I knew what was playing on CBS, NBC, and ABC at 8 o'clock on Thursdays. I knew everything that was playing at 10 o'clock on Wednesdays. So I was a pop culture addict. I'm no longer that. I'm a talk radio and Internet addict. And so when you pay attention to talk radio as much as I do, you understand the themes that play out in talk radio. And one of them is this flyover country, and I consider myself to be a flyover country person who just happens to live in a blue state, in a very blue town, in a very blue part of town. I consider to be one of those people. But when you listen to flyover state people talk